Have you ever read a novel that started slow? Pages that felt like they were going nowhere, but by the end, you realized that every detail had a purpose? C.S. Lewis once said, "We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be." That's what waiting feels like sometimes. Painful, confusing, frustrating. But here's the truth I want to share with you today. God is rewriting your story while you wait. Don't rush it. Let's begin with a simple but powerful question. Why does God allow us to wait? To understand this, let's take a look at Joseph in the Bible. At 17, he had a dream from God, a vision of greatness. But shortly after, he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, wrongly accused, and thrown into prison. It would be 13 years before he saw the fulfillment of that dream. Why? Because God was not just preparing the destination, he was preparing the man. Genesis 50 verse 20 NIV says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." While Joseph was in prison, he thought he was stuck, but in reality, he was in God's workshop. Heaven was rewriting his story, shaping his character, and positioning him for the palace. Let's pause here. What if the delay in your life isn't denial? What if the silence is not abandonment, but strategy? What if the waiting room is where God is actually doing his deepest work? You see, in our culture of instant gratification, 2-minute noodles, one-click shopping, microwave miracles, we often forget that God writes stories with eternity in mind, not just comfort in the moment. Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9 NIV reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." So if God's ways are higher, then his timing must also be wiser. Think about Moses. He was born to be a deliverer, but he spent 40 years in the wilderness before God used him to lead Israel out of Egypt. What was God doing in those 40 years? Rewriting the story, refining the vessel, breaking pride, building faith. It wasn't wasted time. It was divine preparation. Now let's talk about you. You're praying. You're believing. But it feels like God is silent. You may be thinking, "Lord, where are you? I've waited long enough." But here's the thing. The author of your life does not panic like we do. He knows the ending before the beginning. He knows which doors need to stay closed, which relationships need to end, which dreams need pruning before they can bloom. When God is silent, he's not absent, he's working. And sometimes, he's protecting you from stepping into something you're not ready for. Let's look at David, anointed as king while he was still a teenager, but he waited about 15 years before he actually sat on the throne. During that time, he ran for his life, lived in caves, and battled enemies. But during that waiting period, he wrote many of the Psalms we read today. His pain produced poetry. His delay birthed depth. Psalm 27 verse 14, KAV says, "Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord." Waiting is not weakness. It's warfare. It takes strength to wait and trust. It takes faith to believe that God is doing something behind the scenes. Let's go deeper. Imagine reading a book, and you're on chapter 7. Things are chaotic. The hero is suffering, and nothing makes sense. You close the book and say, "This story is a mess." But the author isn't done yet. Chapter 7 is not the end. Don't judge your life by the chapter you're in. God may be setting up a plot twist that will bring everything together. Romans 8 verse 28 NIV tells us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Not some things, all things, even the heartbreak, even the disappointment, even the long, uncomfortable silence. Now, let me be honest with you. Waiting doesn't feel holy. It feels heavy. You might cry. You might feel forgotten. You might even feel tempted to give up or settle for less. But hear this. Don't settle for a shortcut when God is preparing something sacred. Don't trade the promise for impatience. Abraham tried to help God by having a child with Hagar, but that wasn't the promise. Isaac came through Sarah in God's timing. When we rush, we create Ishmaels. When we wait, we receive Isaacs. Let me leave you with 3 simple truths. God is never late. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11 says, He has made everything beautiful in its time. Not your time, His. God uses waiting to build you, not break you. He teaches patience, strengthens faith, and reveals what truly matters. Your story is still being written, and the same God who raised Lazarus from the dead, parted the Red Sea, and shut the mouths of lions, He is the one holding the pen. So what should you do while you wait? Worship. Praise Him even when it hurts. Pray. Keep the conversation going, even if it feels one-sided. Prepare. Don't waste the wait. Grow in wisdom. Build character. Serve faithfully. Because when the page turns, and it will make sense why God delayed the chapter. And you look back and say, now I understand. He was rewriting my story all along. Don't rush it. The best stories take time. And yours, my friend, is in the hands of the greatest author of all.